Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 23, Devahūti's Lamentation. So this chapter is divided into 4 sections. Chapter 23. Section 1 is text 1 to 8, where Kardama Muni is pleased with Devahūti's service. So this is text 1 to 8. 9 to 11, Devahūti's request for a child. So this is 9 to 11. Section 3 is 12 to 48. 12 to 48 is Devahūti and Kardama Muni enjoy the birth of 9 daughters. So Kardama Muni is going to create a celestial mansion and enjoy the birth of the children. And 49 to 57, Devahūti pleads Kardama Muni to stay back because Kardama Muni has said something at the time of marriage that as soon as the son is born, he will take, as children are born, he will take to Vanaprastha and sannyāsa. And therefore, Devahūti is requesting Kardama to stay back. So this is how this chapter is into 4 parts. So we continue with section 1. Maitreya uvacha pitrubhyam prasthite sadhvi patingita kovida nityam paryacharat pritya bhavanim iva bhavam prabhum. Translation.
Maitreya continued, after the departure of her parents, the chaste woman Devahūti, who could understand the desires of her husband, served him constantly with great love, as Bhavani, the wife of Lord Shiva, serves her husband. Purport. The specific example of Bhavani is very significant. Bhavani means the wife of Bhava or Lord Shiva. Bhavani or Parvati, the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, selected Lord Shiva, who appears to be just like a beggar, as her husband. In spite of her being a princess, she undertook all kinds of tribulations to associate with Lord Shiva, who did not even have a house, but was sitting underneath the trees and passing his time in meditation. Although Bhavani was the daughter of a very great king, she used to serve Lord Shiva just like a poor woman. Similarly, Devahūti was the daughter of an emperor, Swayambhuva Manu. Yet she preferred to accept Kardama Muni as her husband. She served him with great love and affection, and she knew how to please him. Therefore, she is designated here as Sadhvi, which means a chaste, faithful wife. Her rare example is the ideal of Vedic civilization. Every woman is expected to be as good and chaste as Devahūti or Bhavani. Today in Hindu society, unmarried girls are still taught to worship Lord Shiva with the idea that they may get husbands like him. Lord Shiva is the ideal husband, not in the sense of riches or sense gratification, but because he is the greatest of all devotees. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. Shambhu or Lord Shiva is the ideal Vaishnava. He constantly meditates upon Lord Rama and chants Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lord Shiva has a Vaishnava Sampradaya, which is called the Swami Sampradaya. Unmarried girls worship Lord Shiva so that they can expect a husband who is as good a Vaishnava as he is. The girls are not taught to select a husband who is very rich or very opulent for material sense gratification. Rather, if a girl is fortunate enough to get a husband as good as Lord Shiva in devotional service, then her life becomes perfect. The wife is dependent on the husband, and if the husband is a Vaishnava, then naturally she shares the devotional service of the husband because she renders him service. This reciprocation of service and love between husband and wife is the ideal of a householder's life. Hare Krishna.
Maitreya continue. After the departure of her parents, so Manu and Shatarupa, they departed now. The chaste Sadhvi Devahūti, she could understand the desires of her husband Kardama and served him constantly with great love, just as Bhavani served Lord Bhavanim Bhavam Prabhum. So very beautifully. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes about the specific example of Bhavani. So why these examples are there is because marriage is not transactional. Many times there is a tendency in Kali Yuga. Marriage is treated as contract. In fact, the word marriage is not a very correct explanation of the word vivaha, because marriage, shadi, these are all very, very contractual terms in the Western civilization or the Abrahamic religions. Where it comes to vivaha, vivaha is the samskar, and it should be taken as a samskar. This is very important. And that's why we see there are examples of, Sita, Draupadi, Mandodari, Tara, and here we come to here example of Bhavani and now Devahūti. So Bhavani was the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, and she is Parvati. She is the daughter of Parvatraj Himalaya, and therefore her name is Parvati. And in spite of being princess, she was married to Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva Prabhupada here brings out a very beautiful aspect of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva as such is not materially very rich, although his own wife Bhavani is the queen and the controller of all material riches. So, but she served Lord Shiva very, very faithfully, just like a poor woman, Prabhupada writes here. Similarly, Devahūti, now she is the daughter of Swayambhu Manu, and she is serving here Kardama Muni, knowing very well how to please him and how to please him by engaging in the devotional service that Kardama Muni was performing. So Prabhupada says this is the ideal society. Ideal society is that where husband and wife, they assist each other in their devotional service. Here there is the example of Kardama Muni engaged in devotional service and wife is assisting. By the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have, organization ISKCON, where even the ladies, the Vaishnavis, they have also phenomenal engagement. And, the husband also has the opportunity to assist the wife in her devotional service, right? And here, Prabhupada writes about, the daughter or the girl getting married to a perfect Vaishnava boy. And there are not many material considerations, although we can have some basic material considerations that we have seen. But the important consideration was Lord Shiva was a Vaishnava. Prabhupada says Lord Shiva is the greatest of the Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambho. And he has a Sampradaya, which is called as Rudra Sampradaya, headed by Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. And there Lord Shiva teaches how to be a genuine devotee of the Supreme Lord. So if one is fortunate enough to get wife or husband as a Vaishnava, that is considered as one of the greatest fortune. And Prabhupada says, assisting each other's devotional service is actually the ideal of householder life. Text 2. Vishrambhenatma shauchena gauravena damena cha sushrushaya saurudayena vacha madhuraya cha bho. Translation.
Translation. O Vidura, Devhuti served her husband with intimacy and great respect, with control of the senses, with love, and with sweet words. Purport. Here, two words are very significant. Devhuti served her husband in two ways, Vishrambhena and Gauravena. These are two important processes in serving the husband or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishramabhena means with intimacy, and Gauravena means with great reverence. The husband is a very intimate friend. Therefore, the wife must render service just like an intimate friend, and at the same time, she must understand that the husband is superior in position and thus she must offer him all respect. A man's psychology and woman's psychology are different. As constituted by bodily frame, a man always wants to be superior to his wife, and a woman is as bodily constituted is naturally inferior to her husband. Thus, the natural instinct is that the husband wants to post himself as superior to the wife, and this must be observed. Even if there is some wrong on the part of the husband, the wife must tolerate it, and thus there will be no misunderstanding between husband and wife. Vishrambhena means with intimacy, but it must not be familiarity that breeds contempt. According to the Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. In the present civilization, the wife calls her husband by name, but in Hindu civilization, she does not. Thus, the inferiority and superiority complexes are recognized. The main a wife has to learn to control herself even if there is a misunderstanding. Sauradena Vacha Madhuraya means always desiring good for the husband and speaking to him with sweet words. A person becomes agitated by so many material contacts in the outside world. Therefore, in his home life, he must be treated by his wife with sweet words. Hare Krishna.
So, very beautiful verse this is. Vishrambhena Atmasauchena Gauravena Damena cha Sushrushaya Savrudena Vacha Madhuraya cha bhu. O Vidura, Devahūti served her husband with intimacy and with great respect, with control of senses, with love, and with sweet words. Vacha Madhuraya. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, so this is how Devahūti, who is the daughter of great king Swayambhu Manu, she served her husband just like Bhavani served Bhava or Lord Shiva. Now, if we are husband hearing this, don't look at the wife and give this purport. By mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have even the ladies performing equal amount of devotional service, sometimes even more, and this is applicable to both. Husband serving wife also means wife. The wife serving husband also equally applicable to husband serving wife or facilitating her devotional service, and a disciple serving spiritual master. Okay, so this is how the context it should be taken from. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, there are two words which are very significant, Vishrambhena and Gauravena. Vishrambhena means with intimacy, and Gauravena means with great dignity. So Prabhupada says, the husband and wife, they are very intimate friends, and therefore they should offer the service as an intimate friend. At the same time, one should understand the natural superiority of one between the two. So sometimes it is like one has to see. That's why there is, the Kundali matching is so important in the marriage. That the marriage Kundali matching. What is Kundali match? That simply it means that one has to just turn the odds in one's favor. That is simply Kundali match, right? So instead of just matching anything with anybody, you just try to match it with the bona fide science which is coming from the Veda, that is a Jyotisha Shastra. Again, let's not go to the another extreme of Jyotisha that we have seen. That devotee means that his life is not covered over by one particular thing except pure devotional service. Prabhupada writes about man's psychology and woman's psychology. The man's psychology is different and woman's psychology is different. And there is a very classical book on this, man's psychology, woman's psychology. The mans are from main Mars and woman for the Venus. And when we take this Nityanand Sabha camp, we often take, the few things from this particular thing. We enact the skits and everything. So if one thing to understand is that one of the major reason of contentions or, the fights between the married life is one thing is that wife wants to share something and husband wants to give the solution of everything. So, this one very important thing that we teach in man's psychology, woman's psychology, we learn that whenever the woman as a class wants to say something, she just wants to share. She's not looking for solution. And whenever the man as a class hears something, he wants to give the solution and he wants to close the topic. And this is like that. There are many instances. There are many characteristics. Prabhupada writes about this. There is a man's psychology and woman's psychology, and one has to respect that dignity very well. And then the married life, although it is very intimate, it will not go to the point of familiarity breeding contempt. And the purport Srila Prabhupada further explains that Gauravena means there has to be a sense of dignity. And Prabhupada gives example here. It is not the familiarity that breeds contempt. According to Vedic civilization, a wife cannot call her husband by name. And in the present civilization, wife call her husband by name. So this is Prabhupada's particular example here. In one particular place, it is also explained that, nowadays, there is no limit to how much that can go down. If husband's name is, I'm just taking any random name, so don't take, I'm just taking any random name, okay? So say somebody's name is Prakash, then the wife may begin call like being Prakash, and then slowly it may go to like Pakya or something like that. So what happens is that the Gauravena aspect is compromised here. And another point, it is also explained that to the degree wife calls husband by name, to that degree it is not it is like not very highly considered from the Vedic perspective. Again, we have to see that although the times have changed, but still Prabhupada mentions this one important point here. And if we have adjusted so many things in our life by teachings of Srila Prabhupada, why not to adjust this one more thing? So what Prabhupada writes here, that the great civilization, the Vedic civilization, there will be always respect between husband and wife. So then there is a Damenacha. A wife has to learn to control the husband even if there is misunderstanding. And similarly, vice versa. Husband is supposed to tolerate the wife even if there is a misunderstanding. Somebody is showing some particular tantrum, then one has to tolerate, understanding that okay, maybe this particular time we have to control, and we should know that sometimes keeping quiet is very important to for the healthy relationships. One should know how to tolerate, and that is called as Damenacha. And then Suradaya Vacha Madhuraya, always desiring good for each other and speaking in a sweet words. So this is very important. There is a very powerful quote which says, what you say matters only 10% and how you say matters 90%. So the most of the fights, they begin with not what the person wants to say, but the how person says it. Okay, so this 10-90 rule, one should always remember that what we say matters only 10%, but how we say, that matters 90%. This is from Simon Sinek, the one who is an authority on corporate communication. So what we say just matter 10%, but how you present it, that matters 90%. And therefore, Vacha Madhuraya, this is very important. And then Prabhupada says here, with this, one can actually facilitate each other's devotional service very well. So although the purport, it is explained from the perspective of husband, wife serving husband, because the context is Devahūti serving Kardama Muni. This is equally applicable for husband facilitating devotional service of wife. If you are thinking husband serving wife is a little too much of a statement, but actually it is equally applicable for husband serving wife as well. And then ultimately it is applicable to a disciple serving spiritual master. Right. So this is a perfect verse for a disciple, how he should be serving spiritual master. Vishrambhena, Atma Shauchena, Gauravena Damena cha, Sushrishaya Saurudena, Vacha Madhuraya chatu. Text 3. Vistrujya kamam dambham cha, dvesham ka lobham magham madam, apramatya dyodyata nityam, tejiyam sam atoshayat. Translation.
Working sanely and diligently, She pleased her very powerful husband, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. Purport. Here are some of the qualities of a great husband's great wife. Kardama Muni is great by spiritual qualification. Such a husband is called Teji Yamsam, most powerful. Although a wife may be equal to her husband in advancement in spiritual consciousness, she should not be vainly proud. Sometimes it happens that the wife comes from a very rich family, as did Devahūti, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu. She could have been very proud of her parentage, but that is forbidden. The wife should not be proud of her parental position. She must always be submissive to the husband and must give up all vanity. As soon as the wife becomes proud of her parentage, her pride creates great misunderstanding between the husband and wife, and their nuptial life is ruined. Devhuti was very careful about that, and therefore it is said here that she gave up pride completely. Devhuti was not unfaithful. The most sinful activity for a wife is to accept another husband or another lover. Chanakya Pandit has described four kinds of enemies at home. If the father is in debt, he is considered to be an enemy. If the mother has selected another husband in the presence of her grown-up children, she is considered to be an enemy. If a wife does not live well with her husband but deals very roughly, then she is an enemy. And if a son is a fool, he is also an enemy. In family life, father, mother, wife, and children are assets. But if the wife or mother accepts another husband in the presence of her husband or son, then according to Vedic civilization, she is considered an enemy. A chaste and faithful woman must not practice adultery. That is greatly sinful act.
Yeah. Visrujya kamam cha dambham cha. Working diligently and sanely, she pleased her husband, very powerful husband, Teji Yasam, giving up all lust, pride, envy, greed, sinful activities, and vanity. So, very important word here is Teji Yasam. Teji Yasam means extremely powerful Kardama Muni. So, this is a very important thing. So, Devavati is serving Kardama Muni, and Kardama Muni is also extremely powerful personality. And because the context is Devavati is serving Kardama Muni, therefore the purports are with the context of Devavati serving Kardama Muni. And we have to apply these with, in our life appropriately. You cannot expect wife to go out, earn salary and be submissive like Devavati. At the same time, it is not that only husband is performing devotional service and wife is assisting the husband in devotional service. Wife is also performing devotional service, right? So it is the duty of the husband. So please take it as wife assisting husband in his devotional service and husband assisting wife in her devotional service. Take it in a balanced way. Neither the case is that only in our case only one person is performing devotional service and another is simply assisting by the virtue of now in ISKCON especially we have even the Vaishnavis getting initiation, they're taking vows, they are having spiritual master, and neither the husband as a class, of course, apart few exceptions, we are as powerful as Kardama Muni. Right. So one should not be in a position that one will show this purport and expect that kind of a surrender. One has to, so this is this vanity, one has to give up and one has to be on a sanity platform. Further, Srila Prabhupada writes that Kardama Muni was Teji Yasam. So husband and wife, they are equal to each other because they are considered as the two, the wheels of the Ratha, and they are equally powerful. They are equally important in the married life. And one of them may come from higher or lower background. So here in this case, Kardama is, the Brahmana sitting in the forest, and Devavati, she is the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, sister of Priyavrat and Uttanapad, personally extremely beautiful. So she came from a very, very highly aristocratic family. And at the same time, neither she has any pride of aristocracy, neither Kardama has any pride of his Brahminical qualifications. So, Prabhupada writes here that one should not be proud of one's parental position. This is equally true for the man as well as woman when they join, when they are in the Vivaha together. And they also must be submissive to each other, giving up all vanity. Right. So further Prabhupada says, whenever there is a pride, that pride creates great misunderstanding. And thus the married life is ruined. So the pride has to be categorically kept aside. And one should always be willing to know what are one's fault, or where one can go right in one's life. This is true for the wife, and this is equally or more true for the husband as well. Right. And then, so Devahūti was very careful about this, and she gave this pride up completely. And then Prabhupada writes about the importance of 4 regulative principles and accepting paramour even when one is in the married life. And this is considered as one of the greatest sinful activity. Srila Prabhupada quotes Chanakya here, Rinakarta Pita Shatro, Matacha Vibhicharini. So, Prabhupada writes here, if the father creates a debt for the child, and if the mother, she has, the another Vibhicharini, and if the wife does not live well with her husband and deals very roughly, and the son is a fool, Putra Shatro Apanditaha, then these are the personalities, they are called as the enemies of the person. So enemy of the wife or enemy of the husband. So, and that's why we have these 4 regulative principles, right? Importance of following the 4 regulative principles, which are the pillars of pious human living or pious human society. So, text 4 and 5, at least I think we can cover the translation. Savaideva Rishivaryastam Manavim Samanubratam Daivat Gariyasa Patyur Patyur Ashasanam Mahashisaha Kalena Bhuyasa Kshamam Karshitam Vratacharyaya Prema Gadgadaya Vacha Pidita Krupaya Bravit. Translation.
The daughter of Manu, who was fully devoted to her husband, looked upon him as greater even than Providence. Thus she expected great blessings from him. Having served him for a long time, she grew weak and emaciated due to her religious observance. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love.
So now here, the daughter of Manu, fully devoted, she looked upon him a greater than the Providence. And this is, this is perfect mood for a disciple to serve one's spiritual master. And she expected great blessings from him, right? And what blessings we can expect? The blessing of being engaged in devotional service, right? Having served him for a very, very long time. So this is very important. Sadhana means very, very long time. So although, we will see this in 3-4 verses, the whole pastime is going to complete, in the sense she has just served. We have seen that last 2 verses, how she served, verse text 2 and 3. But this is how she served for many, many long years. Emanciated due to her religious observances, because Kardama, Prabhupada writes this in the purport, Kardama was a great saint and a great Muni. Often he forgot to eat, and Devahūti also did not eat because Kardama did not eat. So that way. Seeing her condition, Kardama, the foremost of the celestial sages, was overcome with compassion and spoke to her in a voice choked with great love. Prema Gadgadaya Vacha. Okay, this is how Kardama began to speak to Devahūti. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
So we planned Nursing Arati,
Prabhupada.
prayers yesterday, but some devotees requested let it be today. So today, night 9 o'clock, we will be having Narsingarti prayers. Okay, 9 to 9:15, 9:20. Hare Krishna. I will share the link on the sport group, and also in the app there is a community section as well. So there also we will share the link. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Prabhuji. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Everyone, Hare Krishna.
Krishna